Hello. Today I want to talk about emotions, or as we say in Pittsburgh, emotions. I have always been a expressive, emotional person, and it's only been within the last 4 or 5 years that I've learned to look at emotions for what they are and to be able to articulate them, recognize the importance of them, learn from them, about myself and about what I need to learn here to show up and expand and do my work here. And so, emotions. I've learned that an emotion is really energy. And at its basic level, that's what it is. And if we can learn about our emotions and create awareness around them, call them out for what they are, understand their purpose, accept their purpose, believe their purpose, and let them move through, we can be empowered by them and not really be controlled by them and not be reactive to them, be transformed by them. So as I started learning about emotions, obviously my own journey, and then moving into the parenting space and how important emotions are to teach our kids, not just our kids, but all kids. And you don't really learn about it in school, but we want our kids to have emotional intelligence, but we want them to have self-control and be able to self-regulate and be able to help others do that. And that's where the empathy grows and the compassion and the understanding grows. So the better we can understand ourselves, then we can help others and live a life not binded by our emotions, but like I said, being empowered by them, being essentially using them as tools and just guideposts and learn from them. So this conversation will be mainly about the way I process emotions and about recognizing and allowing, expressing, and not suppressing or denying. So I wanted to start with anger, which is, I wouldn't say it's my favorite emotion. I would say it's the one I have most access to, I feel like at times. And I wanted to use the example of when I am with my kids, because I get so angry throughout the experiences with them. And I wanted to use the example of when it's time for them to put on their pajamas to go to bed. So if you've ever tried to tell children to put their pajamas on to go to bed, you will probably go through a bunch of different emotions. Confidence and calm in the beginning, and then a sort of kind of, the shock and the surprise and confusion on why it's so difficult, why no one's putting their pajamas on. Like it's the first time that you're ever asking them the first day, that we haven't been doing this their entire lives. But for whatever reason, because it's late at night and we're all ready to go to bed, it seems to be a point of stress for a bunch of different reasons. But so it kind of goes like this, where it's like, hey guys, get your jammies on, we're going to go to bed now. I'm in the kitchen doing something. And then nobody does. And then, a couple minutes later, like, okay guys, I'm telling you again, let's put our pajamas on. It's time to go to bed. Let's get our jammies on, go to the bathroom. Mind you, my kids are 8 and 11, so they know to go to bed. My middle one is 4, so she also knows, but still is, it can be a different conversation. The way that you would tell your 11-year-old to get her pajamas on might be different the way that you would tell your 8-year-old son and your 4-year-old daughter, but let's just can everybody just get their pajamas on? It'd be great if everybody could just come together, just get your pajamas on. So then after nobody gets their pajamas on again, then of course I start to get upset, right? So the feeling, the emotion that I'm having, the feeling that I'm having, the sensation that I'm having is in my belly, right? And it's kind of rising up, and it just feels uncomfortable, like this just overwhelming heat rising, energy moving, being called to action. It's so uncomfortable. This feeling is so uncomfortable. And we would articulate this feeling as anger or frustration or overwhelm or stress or anxiety even. And it's coming up, and it's just like bubbling up, and out of habit, because our bodies are always living out of the past, because out of habit, yelling is, it's not what I would like love to do necessarily. I wouldn't write a book about how it's great to yell at your kids or anybody, but I think that it's a common go-to. So that's kind of where it goes. You know, you start, I'm even sweating recreating this moment, right? Because it's just like all of it coming up. And then the thoughts start going about, why aren't they doing it? I'm so tired. I just want to go to bed. I never get time for myself. Nobody listens to me. I have to yell in order to get my needs met. And this kind of spontaneous inner dialogue occurs as the emotion, as the physical sensations are coming. So they're both happening at the same time, and they really essentially are meeting here, and then it becomes the everybody needs to get their pajamas on right now. I'm not going to say it again, right? I can't, tomorrow everybody's going to bed early because nobody's listening, and that's the consequence. If you can't get your pajamas on now, everybody's going to bed early tomorrow. Or no pajamas. You guys don't get any pajamas if you can't put your pajamas on. Whatever. So as that's all happening, then if I'm lucky, or if you're lucky, they say, okay, mom's upset now. We're going to go get our pajamas on. And they leave. The action got a reaction, and that energy has dispersed. And now sometimes it moves through and it's gone. But if for whatever reason, maybe I haven't had a chance to process some stuff that I've been brewing or working on, perhaps it isn't finished yet. That energy is not finished yet. And at times it can go, so as that anger was and that frustration was that external release of energy, then it can at times move into an internal experience where it then becomes a sense of helplessness, powerlessness, depression in the sense of feeling like you don't have any control. But it almost kind of rolls with that surrender experience. But I don't want to move too quickly into that because sometimes it doesn't happen so quickly. But then after the yelling, the anger, then it goes into the internal experience of that, just feeling overwhelmed by an energy of very similar to the physical sensations of the anger, but almost comfortable dwelling in like a comfy couch. You just kind of sit back into that inner, I don't want to say emptiness, but it's almost like a gut kind of like, this sucks, and it sucks just as bad as the anger, but sometimes the anger feels better than the powerlessness, because when we're angry, we're doing something about it. We're doing something, we're moving, we feel empowered because we're actually doing something, and we're expressing, we're doing something. But when we sit in the feeling of that powerlessness, it can feel worse sometimes, or more uncomfortable, more I can't do this feeling than the anger might. Because the anger can be the external, whereas the powerlessness and the hopelessness and the sadness sits. I hold a lot of stuff in my gut right here. I can feel it here, and then sometimes in here in my chest, I can feel it. It just sits here, and like heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching. That's what we're talking about. So for me, that might look like crying. That release of energy, that desperation, that hopelessness might be crying. And then the thought pattern that can go along with that can be, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I get it together? Why does this keep happening? Why am I failing? Why can't I do better? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with them? What is wrong with me that I can't get this together? And I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. Maybe I don't want to do this. And the thought pattern is in a relationship with the physical sensation. So we justify our physical sensation with a thought process, with a negative thought pattern, and vice versa. They work together. So if you start telling yourself a story about the way that you're feeling, it just keeps going around and around, and then you kind of spiral a little bit. And what I have learned and what I have made a practice is to be aware of it. Call it out and say, wow, I'm having these deep, deep feelings. I feel it. I feel it in my body. This is where I feel it. It, excuse my language, fucking sucks. It sucks. I hate it. It's so uncomfortable. It's painful. I hate it. And then recognize the thought that you're having. What is the thought that you're having? Is it, I can't do this? Is it, I'm not good enough? Is it, I don't deserve this? I don't deserve this feeling, or I don't deserve this happening to me. And recognize what that thought is, and just be aware of it. You don't have to process it. You don't have to, figure it out or try and come up with where it came from or why you feel that way or why you're even having that thought. Just let it be what it is. Just let it be whatever it is. Like, oh, okay. Just like a cloud, just passing by. Oh, I'm not good enough. 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 And then you feel it in your body. You just recognize what it is. And I have found that the more I just am aware of my thoughts and the way that I feel, it will pass. And I don't get hooked into the story that's created around this whole thing that happens, this whole process that does happen of experiencing the emotion, the negative thought pattern that goes along with the physical sensation. If I don't get hooked into it, then it will pass. And that's been a hard lesson to learn, to not get hooked into the story. Because those negative thought patterns feel like when you go over a bike path and the bike path is already cut out for you and you're on the bike path, it's so easy to go on the bike path. It's like a comfy, it's so easy. It just glides through. And that's how these feelings and these negative thought patterns can feel. They feel so natural. And it's like scratching an itch. Like, it's not that it feels good, but it feels familiar. And it feels essentially easy to go there. It's so easy to get hooked into that story and justify why you're feeling this way, or why you're thinking this way, or why your kids aren't listening, or why you feel like crap, or why this bad thing is happening to you. And once you start calling it out and just being aware of it, then the bike starts to kind of go up onto a different path. And it's like, ooh, that's hard. That's hard to do. It's hard to do. It's hard to not get hooked into the story. It's hard to not go along that bike path. That's so easy. But every time you decide to take that different path, you're creating a new path. Okay, you're creating a new path, and it's hard at first, and it's hard at first, and it's hard at first, and it feels uncomfortable, and it feels challenging. It feels uncomfortable and challenging because it's new, it's different. It doesn't necessarily have like this name to it. It just is kind of this different experience. And then once you're on that path and you create that path and you chisel that path, you may have to start getting on a new path and a new path. And you keep doing it over and over and over again. And every time we can choose to observe our thoughts and our emotions without getting hooked into the story about it, then we never have to really go through that emotion's done. Not that emotion's done like in the sense of the overall, like that you'll never feel angry again, or you'll never feel that sense of powerlessness again. It's just that particular emotional experience, you'll never go through that again. You'll never have to go through that again. We're never moving backwards. We're always moving forwards. So look at it like if you're building a chair and you draw out the design and you go buy the supplies and you come home and you start with the first piece that you're going to put together. And once you do the first step and the second step, they're done. The two sides of the chair is already done. The two legs are already done. You never have to put that chair, you never have to put those two pieces together again. It's already done. Those steps are already done. Then when you put the third leg on and then the fourth leg on and then you have the chair and it's finished, you'll never have to rebuild that chair again. Now, you'll have to build a new chair, but it'll never have to be that. Once it's done, it's done. And that's something that I have really learned about going through this emotional process, is that once you allow it to go through, you're never going to recreate that experience. You're never going to have to kind of go through that exact same thing again. I think that's what fear is a lot, is we hold on to that. We hold on to everything. The worry, the anxiety, the fear, the stress. We hold on to all of it. And it has to go somewhere. It has to be processed somewhere. And I think also for me was recognizing not just the physical sensations that I was having in my body about the way that I feel, but what I was making it mean. What I'm making it mean, the negative thought patterns that go with it. And that the practice of that has really allowed me to learn, move through it without making it mean something, just allowing it to move through, that it's normal, that it's healthy, that it's necessary, that it's exhilarating. It's about being a human. And I've done a lot of work as far as like talk therapy and inner child work and meditating and going through what does this mean for me and what is this bringing up in me, and shadow work and mirroring and being the trigger when somebody triggers something within you. What does the things that we see about other people, what is it that's bringing up in me? And I've done a lot of that work, and I think that I am stepping into a space of we can just let it be. We don't have to dig into it. I'm a digger. I don't know if you're a digger, but I like to figure it out. I think a lot of us with our human minds, we like to figure it out. We want to try and understand, make sense of it, fix it, analyze it. And if we can allow it to be and recognize it as just a way of just how it functions. We're energy, emotions are energy. It's just moving through us. And we don't have to get hooked into the story. We don't have to dwell there. I think sometimes for me, I do dwell in that space sometimes, different spaces. I totally do it. Anger, I'll dwell there. The feeling of powerlessness, I dwell there. But I can recognize that. And it's a daily practice. It's a moment to moment practice. And the more that I can be present with my emotions and recognize the negative thought patterns that are coinciding with it, I can recognize that I can remember, and I can recognize it as a process, and just allowing it to go through. It's not good or bad. It's just moving through. I think the final step there is, after that feeling of the hopelessness, the powerlessness, and the just the crying and all of that release of energy, comes that not enlightenment, but that surrender moment, that feeling of knowing that we are not alone, that we're co-creating with a powerful energy that is far greater than anything we could ever imagine. Knowing that this moment is so purposeful. This life is so purposeful. Feeling connected to something greater. Seeing things that are beautiful. That's when I can tap into that gratitude. But in that awe, that moment of awe, and that's when I know I've come out to the other side, when I can tap into that. So it's about expressing however it needs to be expressed, and acknowledging it, not getting hooked into the story, and allowing yourself to come out to the other side. I hope that was helpful. If anybody has any questions or any comments or anything that they'd like to share, please let me know. Thanks for listening. Have a beautiful day.